Hello and welcome to the last exercise session number 12, where we'll be looking at a couple of examples of algorithms. So the first algorithm that we'll look at is called the CPR number. And this is an algorithm that takes a CPR number, like this one with all ones, and then it returns true or false depending on whether it satisfies a certain self-consistency check that indicates whether it might be a valid CPR number. And the self-consistency check is outlined in these points. So I'll take the first example here, and then I will copy paste it into the bottom of the CPR check file. And then I think that's how I'll get started on this problem. So let's try to look at the checks that we need to perform. So in the first check, we need to check if the first 9 digits correspond to the digits in this control number. And I think a CPR number has 10 digits. 2, 4. I think it has 10. So that's an important piece of information because we only need to consider the first 9 digits, that is these digits, and compare them to the digits here. Or rather, we need to multiply them with the corresponding digit from this number and then add everything together, and the salient point is that we need to end up with 36 in this case. So let's try to get started on that problem. So I think the right approach here would be to write a for loop, and actually I think the right approach would be to put in the control number here, and I'll put it in as a string. And why do I put it in as a string? Well, I put it in as a string because the CPR number is a string, and I think it makes a little bit of sense to keep them in the same format. And then we need a for loop that loop over the digits of the control number, like this. And that should terminate when it gets to 9, of course. And then let's just print out I here, because now I think it makes sense to insert a breakpoint and try to experiment a little with the variables and just check that we understand what value they have. So I'll run this file in the debugger, and then it will stop when it reaches the breakpoint and allow me to inspect the variables. Good. So now if I go to the debug console, we can just check that the CPR variable, this is set to this number here, has the right value. We can actually check that the length of this is 10 and the length of the control number is 9. Okay, so that means that if I take the ith digit of the CPR number and I multiply it with the ith digit of the control number, I'm well on the way of computing this sum where we multiply each corresponding element together. But I need one last thing, and that is to recognize that these are actually strings right now. So this is a string, so I need to convert it to an integer using the int method. So here I'm simply using that int of a string of an integer is actually equal to the integer. So this makes sense because we multiply this 4 by this 1. Then I need to add everything together. So I need a value of the sum. Let's call it SM for sum. And then I'll I'll copy paste this stuff in. Here. There. Okay, so now if I run all of this stuff, it should carry out the calculation and get 36, and this is what it should get. Calculate the remainder of the previous result by the division with 11. So in this case, we just need to remember how we perform division by 11. So we do that using the modulus operator, so we can compute SM modulo 11, the remainder by division of 11 is 3. So that's how we compute division by 11. So I'll guess I'll store that in a new variable. Subtract the remainder from 11 to get the final CPR digit. Okay. So this is what they mean, right? Like we compute the remainder modulus 11 and subtract it from 11. Okay, so let's see. This gives me 8. That seems correct. The final digit of the CPR should therefore be 8. Okay. So how do we get the final digit of the CPR number? Well, it's a little bit obscure because it's all ones, but we can get the final digit like this. We just have to remember this will actually correspond to this digit. And then we need to compare that to what we computed up here, like this quantity here, which was 8. And now we need to be a little bit careful because this is a string and this is an integer, so we need to convert one to the right format. Like either we convert this to an integer or this to a string. And I guess I'll convert this to an integer because I don't know. I feel that makes a little more sense to me. So we need to do this, and then we can compute whether it is okay by basically asking if the last digit is equal to this stuff up here. And this should not be okay because we got a 1 here and we got an 8 here. So we'll just check it's false, and therefore we should return false. So I would do it like this. Okay. So now I'll insert a print statement here, and this should print out false. I'll just stop the debugger. Remember to save the file and select run, and it prints out false. And if I change this to an 8, it'll print out true. And I'm a little tempted to put in my own CPR number here just to check, but I guess I shouldn't, because I would be GDPRing myself, or whatever it's called. I guess we can remove this one. Okay, but this is how we can. Yeah, I guess that was the exercise. So this is how we can complete this exercise, and there are a couple of different ways we can structure this. And actually, no, I won't say anything more. No, actually, I will say that this particular line, maybe you can think of your own way of doing that. Maybe you can think of a way that uses NumPy ideas. And maybe you can also think of a way of doing it that uses this zip function. There is actually a nice way of doing it that uses zip, but that is not at all necessary here. So good luck with this exercise.